Hey y'all, this season we'll be playing Persona 3 Reload, and as such, we'll be discussing some pretty heavy topics such as depictions of violence, bullying, and suicide. Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play the remake of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I'm Sam.
I'm Bernard, new and improved.
And I'm Trish, the same as I ever was, same as I ever was, same as I ever was.
And today we are turning the clocks back to the midnight hour and remaking our first season by playing Persona 3 Reload. Today we're going to be covering the month of April, most specifically the portion of the game up until the Tartarus tutorial on April 20th. But before
just like Persona 3 Reload, we've recast everyone but one singular person.
Yep. But before we get into all of that,
I was here the whole time.
How was y'all's week?
I played Persona 3 Reload, and I couldn't stop playing, and I've played until mid-June.
Understandable. It has a real Civilization one more turn effect going on.
Yeah, when I was plotting out the season, I was like, oh, we'll do more because now we're a lot busier than we were when we could do 8 hours of a game every week like last time, and so we'll do just this much. And then both Bernard and Trish were like, can we please play double this every week? So yeah, we might finish it in fewer than we did last time.
I find when I'm playing a Persona game, it takes a lot less mental energy to play it than to play other games usually. In fact, it might take more mental energy to refrain from playing it than to play it. So yeah, that's been my week. I've just played way too much Persona.
See, I would have had a similar problem, but halfway through the week, something else took up my time. So there's a friend I met through playing TTRPG online shortly after I came out and started transitioning back in 2020. We've been friends since then. So we've been friends about like 3.5 years at this point. Mm-hmm. They're great. They're a fellow gender fluid. And we've known each other for ages and ages and ages. And then I started crushing on them because that's a thing I frequently end up doing to people I get close to. Mm-hmm. And that basically led to a kind of like, they're a very private person who is not used to online like relationships or relationships in general, really. So we've been kind of taking things slow. And this week we met in real life for the first time. Nice. They came over for a couple days, got here on Thursday, and just left a couple hours ago. And it was fucking. So it was. Let me just say first off, it was magical, and we're actually dating now, and we use the word dating, and it makes me extremely happy. However, also the day they got here was a nightmare because I don't know. Some people listening might know this, but on the Thursday before we recorded, there was a thing in New York City where the heat wave caused all of the trains to lose power, or some insane shit happened that delayed all trains for like 4 to 5 hours.
Jesus Christ!
So they were just stuck halfway here. For a while, and it completely threw off the schedule we had planned for their whole like trip transiting here, and so I lost a chunk of time I was expecting, which was really disheartening, especially and any of you out there listening, if you're listening to this podcast, there's I'm not going to say not just non-zero, there's a preponderance of a chance that you are also some flavor of autistic like I am. And that feeling of just like, oh, I was really excited and looking forward to this, and now the plans have changed in a way, and I am now fucking destroyed and disheartened, and the universe is crumbling around me. But they did end up getting here. And the next day we spent 14 hours together, basically, so it was fucking fine. Um, and we watched just an absolute fuck ton of Amphibia, which, by the way, holy shit, Amphibia, I think, has easily... The only reason Amphibia is not my favorite cartoon series now is because She-Ra exists, and She-Ra was made specifically to make me happy. But Amphibia is goddamn close. We're, like, more than halfway through season 3. We just got to I'll just say a portal opened again is where we are in the season. And I love it. I love it so much. And watching it with them and being able to cuddle and watch it at the same time was the best thing ever. So I'm a little sad because we had to say goodbye, but this was just our first time seeing each other. There will be times in the future. That's been my week. That's like the dominating force of my week.
Nice.
What about you, Sam?
So I also played a lot of Persona 3, and I while I wasn't playing Persona 3, I was hanging out with my kids a lot because Summer went over to her boyfriend's for a while, and the end of that extended stay over there was moving him into our house. So he lives here now, which is cool. But that also means I won't have to do this solo dad thing for an extended period ever again. But so while I was hanging out with the kids a lot, I was playing quite a bit of fuck, what was I even... I was doing something because I was doing that instead of doing what I was supposed to. I can't remember what it is now, but I had my nose in my 353 and that my brain is empty and I don't remember what it was. But because I was doing that and playing Persona and playing random retro game that literally has gone out of my brain, I didn't prep for Pathfinder last night in time, and so I did something that no GM should ever do. There was a path that they could take in the dungeon, and they could go left or they could go right. And instead of prepping one or two rooms on either the left or on both the left and the right, I only prepped some rooms on the right, hoping that they would go that way. And when they get to the room with the split, they're like talking between each other, and they're like, yeah, we'll go down the creepier hallway. Why would we go down the obvious way to go? We're video game players. We're going to go and tear apart these barrels and see what's behind it, which was the bet I was making, and thank God. So I did not have to make shit up for the left hand thing. We went through the right hand thing, and everything was great and awesome. And this was our first session since I used to have 2 campaigns, but now I have 1, and so the other party was 3 people, or both parties were 3 people. 2 people quit, so I moved my partner Cass from the Dead campaign over to this one, and I had to do a lot of like stretching and weaving and bobbing of the narrative because Cass's campaign took place 5 years in the past. So I had quite a long reading and or writing and finagling at the beginning of it, and then multiple people forgot their laptop, and we play in Foundry. And so at first, Cass rolls up and is like, "Oh my god, I forgot my laptop. It's been so long since we played. I forgot that's what we do." And I was like, "No problem. I'll make it work with the Steam Deck." And so I made the Steam Deck into the tiniest little laptop ever to have the Steam Deck with a wireless keyboard and mouse right in front of it. I was like, "This will work. This will be fine." Then Deanne comes in and is like, "Oh my god, I forgot my laptop." I'm like, "All right, we're just doing it pen and paper tonight." And so the show must have went on, and it did go on, and it was a lot of fun, and I'm very excited for Pathfinder again. It had been a heck of a hot minute since I had done anything, so it was around January when Rin dumped me and killed the second campaign because her character's story was kind of the through line. We were all like on her adventure, so when she dumped me, can't really do anything with there. So I then was like, okay, we're going to pause on everything. We're just going to have my big happy session for my birthday in March. And then this was our first time playing since March. So it's been over 6 months since I've done anything in this campaign. And it was a lot of de-rusting, but it was a lot of fun. And hopefully they will now be monthly games again and not 6 monthly games. But yeah, I still can't remember what the fuck I played. It's some old like like actiony game that I put in a cheat code where I get infinite lives so that I can play it like a Super Meat Boy and not like an arcade game. I can't remember
That
which one.
narrows it down so much, and I definitely have a clear idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, good thing retro games weren't all inspired by arcade games, so there's only one or two possible that it could be. That would be
Exactly.
an action game with lives and a score. Yeah. Um, it'll come to me later, and I'll just blurt it out instead of reading the notes for Persona 3 Reload, which we're going to start talking about after this short musical interlude.
It's full moon again. Crazy how time flies. When I wonder if the path is in the right direction. But I do believe things come to light by accident. When it remains on, sounds like it's meant to be.
Wake up, mistakes made when things fall apart. Get up, what matters at the end is how you left tomorrow. Read up.
So the history of this game is that it's the third Persona game, and we covered the history a long time ago, and they remade it, and it looks really cool. And I did not prep it because there's a lot of stuff to get through. So if you want the history of this game, Wikipedia. So you load up this game, and it starts with a new anime intro that Persona 5ifies Persona 3. And at first, I wasn't really digging it because it was very Persona 5 and not very Persona 3. But then the beat drops and the rap started, and I was back in it. The rap
Yeah.
sound was a very important sonic signature of Persona 3, and if it wasn't here, it would have completely ruined it. But the moment that beat dropped, I was like, oh yeah, I'm back. Persona 3, baby. So we hit start to start a new game, and we get an opening quote that says, "Time waits for no one. All are equal in its flow, all lives born to their ends. You, who would protect the glimmer of the finite future, you have a single year. Go forth and live in the time given to you. Even in these halcyon days of repose, let your heart guide you and never stray from this path." So the game opens on our main character, Makoto Yuki, aka Kotono Shiomi, aka Totino's DiGiorno. And they're making their way to their new home in, I put in my notes, Iwatodai, Japan, but I mean, technically that's where they're going, but it has a different like port district name that I didn't write in my
So
notes.
Tatsumi Port Island is the location where the school is, and the area surrounding is Iwatodai City.
Okay, so yeah, I was accidentally right. I was making their way to their new home.
One time you
Iwatodai,
doubt
Japan.
yourself, you were actually right.
And as we see them walking in, we get an intercut with a teenage girl who's psyching herself up to commit suicide by pistol to the forehead, but she's unable to do it.
You forgot to mention that the first thing that happens in this game is a content warning, which I think is classy.
Yes,
I do appreciate that a
I was
lot.
I was just about to, because I said the word suicide, remind me at the end of this to record a content warning to put before our theme song for this episode. So yeah, we see them walking in, intercut with a teenage girl psyching herself up to commit suicide by a pistol to the forehead, but she's unable to go through with it. Totino's train is delayed, which has him making his arrival to Iwatodai be pretty nearly at midnight, and the station is basically empty. And as if an empty train station devoid of people wasn't weird enough, as soon as the clock strikes midnight, the moon turns green, all of the electricity runs out, and large pools of blood grow out of the pavement, and every human is frozen in place inside of a coffin. Totino's looks around at it, is intrigued, but not creeped out, reluctantly takes off their headphones now that they're not working, and thinks, oh man, it's getting late. I need to hurry and get to my dorm.
And I'm like, buddy, you're in Japan. If you were in a major American city, I'd understand this reaction of just not my business. But come on, you're in a society that functions more. You should be like, whoa, there's something weird going on.
Not my circus, not my monkeys.
Right. They really don't care about the fact that the world is now a horror movie. Their inner monologue, while you get to play as them for a little bit before the cutscene continues, and everything you investigate is just like, I guess the elevator's out of order. Weird. Is this a coffin? It's like, you should be concerned, but whatever. So they make it to the dorm, and the front desk of the dorm is manned by a mysterious boy in striped pajamas who welcomes Totino's, does a bunch of weird magical teleporting shit that Totino's doesn't comment on, and asks Totino's to sign a contract. They don't read the contract at all. They just sign their name and make sure they spell it correctly. And then the mysterious boy does some more weird magic that Totino's does not care about. And then the girl we saw earlier comes into the dorm and is genuinely surprised to see him. And she doesn't ask, "Why are you here?" She asks, "How are you here?" She attempts to draw her gun on him, but then a knockout redhead stops her and says that Totino's is a transfer student assigned to this dorm. She introduces herself as Mitsuru Kirijo, which every time I read it, my brain says that it's a Spanish word, and I say Kirijo, which is not right. But every time it's voiced and they say Kirijo, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in Japan. I forgot. And then she introduces the other girl as Yukari Takeba. Totino asks if that little boy lives in the dorm too, but they have no idea what he's talking about. Yukari asks Totino's if everything was normal on the way to the dorm, and he says, yeah, and just heads to his room for the night. The next morning, Yukari shows him the way to school, and he makes his way to the faculty office where he meets his homeroom teacher, Miss Toriumi, who escorts him to the welcoming ceremony and eventually to class. A day presumably filled with like reading syllabuses and stuff goes by, and then after school, we're greeted by our classmate, Junpei Iori, who is no longer voiced by a sex pest, thank God.
Yay!
As far as we know.
As far as we
As
know.
far as we know.
You never know.
You never know.
I mean,
that's terrifying to think about.
It is. Also, I don't know Junpei that well. Would it be rude to say him originally being voiced by a sex pest fit him?
Oh, it absolutely fits him, and that's kind of the worst part.
That's the worst part. Okay, I'm glad I was reading his vibes correctly.
Junpei offers to walk home with us, so we do that, and when we get home, we're super zonked, so we go straight to bed. In the lobby of the dorm, Mitsuru and tall heartthrob Akihiko Sanada talk about how there are a bunch of new cases of apathy syndrome, a condition that's spreading through Iwatodai where people just become like shells of their former self, basically sit around as living zombies and don't do anything. Akihiko says that it's probably because of them and heads off to practice taking care of them. After an uneventful day at school the next day, Totino's heads home where he meets Shuji Ikutsuki, the chairman of the board for the Gekukan High School, which is the name of the high school that he goes to now. Ikutsuki and his really bad haircut are only there to welcome us and answer our questions that we have about the dorm and the school, and then after he leaves, we just head on to bed. While we sleep, the camera shows Yukari and Mitsuru and Ikutsuki watching Totino sleep on a comically large computer monitor like you would find in the fucking Batcave.
This is weird.
Yeah, they're watching you sleep because it will soon strike midnight and bring upon the dark hour, and they want to see what happens to you. Because during the dark hour, which is a hidden hour between midnight and 12:01, all ordinary people turn into a coffin and are oblivious to everything that occurs, but Totino stays a human asleep in his bed. This must mean that he has the potential, because if you didn't have the potential, then they would have devoured him by now. It's currently inconclusive, though, so they'll continue to monitor him on their giant screen for now. Totino's in his bed drifts off to dreamland, and he steps into an elaborately large Art Deco elevator, where seated on the other side of a room at a table is a man with a comically large nose and a new voice actor, and this man's name is Igor.
I remember him from Persona 2, where he played a very small role.
Yeah, it's crazy. The role that he plays now, he was like the butler for the guy that did this for the games beforehand, and they just like,
Yes.
Igor, you have better character design than Joker does, so you were
Philemon.
Philemon. Then
Joker was the bad guy.
Yes. You have a better character design than Philemon does, so you get promoted.
But yeah, I don't know why they decided to just pretty much completely cut Philemon out of the Persona series, other than arguably the butterfly motif that shows up sometimes is Philemon's presence. But
yeah, no idea why. I like Igor a lot more. Igor and Elizabeth are way better. Or it's not always Elizabeth, but it's an Elizabeth-like.
I like it should always be Elizabeth, though.
It's true.
I like that the best one.
I like that vibe a lot more than Philemon and Igor's vibe, so I'm down with it.
Yeah, no, I'm down with it too.
So Igor welcomes us to the Velvet Room, a place that exists between dream and reality, mind and matter, where only those who signed the contract may enter. Igor says that we have a special power that will need his help to hone, and he gives us the Velvet Key so we can come back when needed, but for now, it's time to wake up and head back to school. After school, we hang out with Junpei, and we come home late to the dorm, and Miss Mitsuru scolds us and shoos us off to bed quickly, telling us that we can go look at the full moon another night. Totinos lays in bed, wondering what about the weird dream he had and what it means as it ticks over to the dark hour. In the Batcave, Mitsuru, Yukari, and Ikutsuki are watching Totino's sleep, impressed that he isn't showing any of the normal symptoms that people who are awake during the dark hour possess when Mitsuru gets a call. It's Akihiko. Something is chasing him. Something big. Mitsuru tells Yukari that they have no choice, and she should go wake Totino's and prepare for combat. But Totino's is already awake when she arrives. She tells them that they need to leave now and head to the back door because she doesn't say because why. But when they get to the back door, it's crawling with jerks and they can't get through. So they decide to head to the roof instead, hoping to put distance between them and the creatures that are there on the first floor. But right as we think we're safe, a large, very disturbing creature made entirely out of arms that Yukari calls a shadow scales the building and comes onto the roof after us. Yukari draws her gun and goes to shoot herself in the head to take the coward's way out, but the shadow slaps her aside and the gun flies from her hand. The shadows follow after her, and so Totino's grabs the dropped gun. He gets a vision of the boy in the striped pajamas who tells him to go on. So Totino's puts the gun to his head and pulls the trigger. But of course, this is not an ordinary gun, and so instead of blasting his brains out, it summons a creature that looks oddly like Totino's, who names itself Orpheus. But something is wrong, and instead of just remaining as Orpheus, a searing pain shoots through Totino's head, and Orpheus transforms instead to a Kingdom Hearts boss, who then whips ass and destroys the shadow easily before reverting back to normal Orpheus and disappearing. But only the big shadow is gone, and there are still little ones that we need to fight. So a much poorer version of mass destruction plays, boo, tomato, tomato, and we get our tutorial fight, and we easily take out the shadows.
So there are anime cutscenes that you mentioned before. They're anime cutscenes. They're also just like in-game cutscenes where it's just the character models walking around and animating stuff. They're also, I don't know what to call them, but like they're like in Unreal Engine 5 or whatever Unreal Engine version this is, but they are full cutscenes.
Yeah.
They are not just the character models walking around and doing their canned animations, and wow, they're really cool.
Yeah,
They're very good.
They're very good. Like the different ways in which you can partake in this story so far, you have in the original and in Fess is mostly anime so far at this point of the game, and in Portable, it's all visual novel, and then you get to this point, and it all takes place in the battle engine, which is pretty cool. And then this one, you get a mix of all three styles, and it's kind of very like unique. None of it feels out of place, but it's cool and very Persona, and I like it a whole lot.
Yeah, this is this style of cutscene is another thing that is reminiscent of Persona 5. You mentioned that there were some things that felt like Persona 5, and there's a lot of things where they clearly took stuff from Persona 5, but like I think it all works.
Yeah,
Persona 5 is good. So
yeah. And they managed to take things from Persona 5 that don't make it feel any less like Persona 3. Because while Persona 3 is the beginning of modern Persona, there's a giant difference between Persona 3 and Persona 5. But adding a little Persona 5 into Persona 3 kind of is working really, really good. Better than I thought it would.
It feels like they took, like, to use a dumb car metaphor, they took parts out of Persona 5 to soup things up for this, but the paint job is not the same paint job Persona 5 had. The appearance, the gloss, the finish is Persona 3.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, after we take out the shadows, the effort is too much on Totino's, and we collapse onto the floor. Once we're unconscious, we return to the Velvet Room. Igor informs us that Orpheus is our persona, and summoning personas is the power that he was referring to earlier. A persona is the power of one's soul, and as our bonds develop, so will the power of our personas. So we should strengthen our social links, capital letters, to become more powerful.
Also, it's hilarious how he pronounces it. He's like, you must strengthen your social links and not like your social links.
Yeah.
He totally says it as if it's a proper noun. We know,
Yeah.
which it is because we've played Persona before.
Uh, he says that he will see us soon, and as the next time that we come to the Velvet Room will be of our own free will. So we wake up the next morning. Wait, did I say next morning? I meant in over a week. We fought the shadow on the 9th, and now it's the 17th. Just had a small 8-day coma. No big deal. We're in the hospital, and Yukari is waiting by our bedside. She knows what it's like to not have any family left, so she's been visiting us in the hospital so that we wouldn't be alone. Her dad died when she was little, and she and her mom aren't on good terms, so she's basically on her own too. Her dad died in an explosion at a place owned by Kirijo Labs, so she's going to GeckoCon, which is also owned by the Kirijo group, to try and get some answers as to what happened. She's expositing her backstory to us because she already knew ours, and it's only fair. The doctors didn't find anything wrong with Totino's, just that he was so exhausted he had to sleep for 9 days, so once he wakes up, he's free to go home and go to sleep again in his own bed.
Well, I also just thought maybe Yukari was there because he just hadn't gotten enough of watching him sleep with the creepy cameras.
Right. The next day, we come home from school with Yukari, and Kutsuki is waiting for us. He explains what the Dark Hour is to us, and more specifically, the Shadows. They are creatures that roam during the Dark Hour, attacking anyone who is outside of a coffin. This group, our doormates plus Kutsuki, are the Specialized Extracurricular Execution Squad, SEES for short, and they are tasked with defeating the Shadows in order to protect the townspeople from them. So a shadow feeds on the mind of its victim, and it leaves them a mindless husk afterwards. That is, that the cause of the apathy syndrome is being attacked by a shadow whenever you're awake during the Dark Hour. But those who can function during the Dark Hour can awaken their personas, a power that can defeat the shadows. They ask Totinos to join them, and he agrees. They give him his own evoker, the pistol-shaped persona summoning tool that Yukari has been carrying the whole game, and he heads on to bed. But during the Dark Hour, the boy in the striped pajamas comes into Totino's room and wakes him, warning him that the end of everything is coming, though he doesn't know much about it. But maybe Totino's power will prove to be his salvation. Totino sleeps until nighttime the next day. A 9-day coma wasn't enough. He had to have another 18-hour coma. And then when he wakes up, Akihiko is downstairs, and he announces the newest member of SEES, which is Junpei, our classmate. He awakened to his power recently, and Akihiko found him during his patrols during the Dark Hour the other night. So Junpei is not only joining SEES, but he's also moving into the dorms with us. So now we have...
Yay.
now we have enough people so we can start scoping out Tartarus, which is the big weird tower that grows in place of the school every night. It's linked to the Dark Hour somehow and the Shadows, and since it's SEES' job to fight the Shadows that are here, they're also tasked with getting to the root of the problem itself to try and stop the Dark Hour from happening.
I feel like that doesn't say something good about the school itself. I'm just gonna that's the coincidence of it just happening to grow there. I'm so unspoiled on this game. I have no clue how things are gonna turn out, but I'm just like sus. I don't trust it.
Yeah, put a pin in that. We'll see what happens.
I'll put a pin in that.
And so, on the night of 420, high as hell, we head to the school and we watch as the clock strikes midnight and an impossible tower sprouts from where the school once stood. Our team isn't sure why, but they know that exploring the tower and gathering any clues that they can will help them figure out how to stop the Shadows and the Dark Hour. Akihiko is still injured from his fight with the Shadows, and Mutsuru is going to work as our navigator. So Totino's, Junpei, and Yukari are going to do a preliminary investigation of Tartarus themselves. There's a door to the Velvet Room inside the lobby of Tartarus, but it looks like no one else can see it, nor can they see Totino's go through it. When you go through it, they run up to you and are like, "You just kind of stood there for 15 minutes. Are you sure you're okay?" And
Sorry, I
so,
was using personas and stuff.
Yeah, so instead of being concerned for his mental state, they decide that he should be the leader of the expedition.
Right.
And so they send us off into the labyrinth. Inside, everything is weird and twisty. I mean, Tsiru tells us that Tartarus changes its layout every night, so we need outside support to be able to track and monitor the changes to help us not get lost. She'd love to be in there with us, but her persona's ability lets her see into and monitor Tartarus from the outside, and there's no one else who could possibly do that support role, so she must stay outside. We explore the first floor of Tartarus, which is our combat and exploration tutorial. Junpei and Yukari use their personas for the first time, and Tortinos gains his second persona. His special power that was mentioned... Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, unlike the main character, they actually have a bit of a hard time working up the courage to shoot themselves in the head with the evoker.
Yeah.
Something the protagonist does truly with just no hesitation.
Yeah. So, Totinos' special power that was mentioned isn't just that he can summon a persona, but that he can summon any persona. He just has to make a bond with it. In Persona 3, those bonds are formed during shuffle times, which are post-battle sequences where you get to pick from a few cards and get either a persona or a bonus to your experience, your yin, your HP, skills, those sorts of things. Very abstracted, but whatever. Then in battle, Totinos can switch out his personas at the beginning of his turn to more easily exploit enemy weaknesses. The system is weird, but I cannot stress enough how much better it is than the much more weirder and much, much worse persona acquisition system of Persona 2. I had to put in cheat codes to get infinite cards to just get the personas I wanted, because it was super dumb, and I did not understand what I was supposed to do, and I was getting my ass kicked, and I had to record a podcast episode the next day, so I put in cheat codes because it was obtuse. This one is abstract, but not obtuse.
Yeah, no, it's compared to the weird conversations into this is definitely streamlined in a way that I'm not going to complain about.
Yeah. The thing about Persona 2 is that it's based on the whole conversation system from the other Mega 10 games, but it's weirder and more obtuse.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, you play Shin Megami Tensei 1 and it's just like you just have these conversations and you don't know what you're supposed to say ever, but you just say them. You just say things, and sometimes you get a demon and it works great. But it's so weird in Persona 2.
Yeah, in Persona 2, they gamify the conversations in a way that just makes it dumb, and then you don't get them to join you at the end. You get their cards and whatnot to then summon them from the other thing, and it's dumb. It's so dumb. I'm glad we're not playing that game anymore. So after clearing out the first floor, Junpei and Yukari are exhausted, so we call it quits for the night. No need to push ourselves just yet. And that's where we will call it quits for this week. No need to push ourselves just yet. There will be plenty of 6-hour gameplay weeks in our future, but for now we're going to take it easy, listen to some more of that sweet, sweet Persona 3 music, and then talk about our memorable moments.
So, Ikutsuki mentioned that he's the club advisor for Seas, and apparently the club is an official school club in some capacity or something, but what are they officially executing?
Yeah. I don't know!
Because the word execution is definitely in their name. What do other students at the school just hear, oh, they're in the specialized extracurricular execution squad, and be like, okay.
Yeah.
Because apparently there are records. I mean, Ikutsuki talks about how he's doing investigations and stuff, and clearly there's people outside of our little group who know about all this. But it's still funny to me that apparently it is an official school club in some capacity. Also, Ikutsuki is like, my name is Ikutsuki. A little hard to pronounce, isn't it? And I'm like, buddy, I've been dealing with European names all my life. A Japanese name is not gonna trip me up. That's the easiest.
I know how the fucking sounds are pronounced.
It takes half a day to figure this shit out, and you've got all the sounds figured out pretty much. It's not. It's fine.
So for me, I was encouraged by Sam here when going to play this game. even though Atlas didn't put in the main girl character from the PSP game, there is a mod people have been working on to let you play as her, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll do that. I'm not gonna get into the how difficult it was actually getting that going necessarily, just because it's a long story. It's not really relevant, but I did get it going. I have been playing it with the mod on. And at first I was like, oh, she's so cute, and I like a lot of the little small touches they do for her, like how they change little like UI elements and stuff, and like little portraits of her. She's so cute. And then I started to realize, so this is an obvious downside of how much of this game is voice acted, is even though they've changed the text of this game to be like, oh, if you're playing with the mod, then people call you she and her. Like, oh, cool, that's nice. And there's other like small bits, like there's someone I talked to in class who is like, oh yeah, it's so cool that you moved in. Now the percentage of hot girls is even bigger. And I was like, oh, it's a little fun thing that they have that character say because I'm actually playing as a girl. That's fun. But the voice acting hasn't changed, obviously, because the mod creators can't get these voice actors to come in and redo lines. So I have the experience in a cutscene of them looking at my character sleeping in a bed, and they're saying he and him, and the text says she and her, which, as a trans woman, is a really weird feeling. Because it gives me like a weird, like, there's a part of me that groks with it as like yes, when like textually a person is saying the right things, but the voice I'm hearing in my ears, they're misgendering me. Is how it feels, weirdly enough. So it's kind of grating and uncomfortable. Also, just the character model is a little janky. I'm not going to complain too much about that. The game hasn't been out very long. The fact that it's as modded as it is with this whole thing as it is so far is incredible, and I'm sure the mod will get smoother with time.
Yeah.
But for now, there's a lot of points where my character's sitting down and her skirt is phasing downward through her legs in her chair. And like, that's just a thing I have to accept. But I wasn't going to accept it. I was starting to reach a point where I was like, I think I'm going to turn them off and play normally. And I decided against it because I do want to do a romance with a cute girl as a cute girl. I do just want that. And I know otherwise the only way to get that persona is to play the PSP game and to go for the two characters I can do that with. So I'm going to enjoy it and try to do that. But it does also constantly just playing this make me think just like, the fact that Atlas didn't put, like, that I have to mod this in, that Atlas didn't do this, and that their thing is like, well, it would have made it cost so, it'd be so much more expensive, so much more dev time if we do that. And I'm like, okay, on some level, I get what you're saying, it would, but also, this is already an extremely expensive and big game, and, like, the way you allocate resources to that is, a thing you have control over, and B, why is being a girl a unnecessary feature that can always be cut? Otherwise, boy, Persona 3, 4, 5, boy. Only Persona game you can play the main character as a girl is fucking the second 2 game.
Yeah.
And I loved Maya. She was great, and I will cherish her forever. But 1 out of 6 protagonists being girls is a failing grade.
Yeah. Like, with this one, people would have still been upset, but it wouldn't have been as egregious if they were like, hey, we can't remake both Fess and Persona 3 Portable because the changes go really deep in Portable. In Portable, you have different social links. You have a lot of different content being a girl. If it was just you switch it out and you have the same social links, but like maybe they do it because you can go on dates with the boys in this game now. If they just like move the technical social link over to the boys, and then you have the same things with the girls, but you get they kind of reverse it. So now you can go on dates with Akihiko and they're not social links. Switch it to where you can go on social link dates with Akihiko, but then you can go on dates with Yukari and those aren't social links or something. Just do the bare minimum would have been great and awesome. But no bones tossed to girls.
This game is boneless. But anyway, that aside, I'm really enjoying myself. I think I said on the podcast before, I have played Persona 3 before, but it was the PSP version, and I didn't get very far. In fact, I was talking to Bernard. I might have literally gotten to the end of what we're going to be doing next week, and that might have been where I stopped playing, because I wasn't super invested in the game. It was a game my partner was asking me to play at the time, and I was trying out, and I was mostly into it for the social aspects, and just trying to do social links with this one character I thought was cool. And then I got to a boss and I hadn't been doing dungeons, and so I just died, and I couldn't continue the game, and so I just stopped playing it. And now playing it, I am interested in the story. I'm interested in these characters. I fully invested, and I did a bunch of dungeon shit I didn't need to do. And oh god, the combat is fun. The combat is really fun in this game.
Yeah. I like it a lot. I also like, speaking of things they stole from Persona 5, I really like pressing the I don't want to think, I don't want to try to remember things. Let me press the R button, and if my characters know this, then that's good enough for me. And that makes random battles really, really nice and easy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I have several different thing. Speaking of a systems thing, so in this game, it's the first RPG I've ever heard of, but it has soft lock prevention. So,
Oh?
so you now can save the game in a whole lot of places. You used to only be able to save at the bottom floor of Tartarus and at the front desk in the dorm, but now you can save basically anywhere. But this game also has a lot of forward momentum, and you can easily get stuck without any way of progressing if you're underprepared for a boss. Like you mentioned in Persona 3 Portable, you literally could not continue, and instead of starting over, you just didn't play anymore. So now in your in the start menu, you have a rewind function, which is every time you save, it also saves a point in your recent past where you were not locked to something. You were like before going into the dark hour per se, so you could go and get new equipment, those sorts of things. And so you can save anywhere, but you also don't have to worry about accidentally soft locking yourself. So because you can use the rewind function. It's very weird, but kind of awesome, and I hope that it continues in other games. It's just such a really good idea, because I've mentioned several times at different points in the podcast of times where I've soft locked myself. Like the one that comes to mind is in Trails in the Sky first chapter. I saved at the bottom of the bandit base at the end of chapter 1, and it's a boss rush to get out of there, and I had no health, so I just had to abuse the fact that when you die, it lets you try it again easier, and do it until I was invincible so that I could get out. It was very, very frustrating there, and so having the rewind function here is very cool, and I hope it continues.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
like it. It's really useful.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's a weird feature, but that's interesting
Mm-hmm.
and cool that it's there. I hope I never have to use it.
I am from the PlayStation 1 era, so I have been rotating my saves, so I will not have to use the rewind function. I've been implementing my own rewind function for the past 20-something years, but it's cool that it's there. Another weird systems thing that I really liked in this one is there are skill checks before the first day is over where you can't possibly have any skills. It makes me want to go and do a New Game Plus just to see what happens, which means that this mechanic is working, because that's what it's there for. It's for it to make you be like, oh, you failed this, but you could do a New Game Plus and play it again. So I'm probably stupidly going to play this gigantic video game twice in a row, because I want to know what happens if you try to flirt with your teacher on the first day of school. I just got to know.
That would be fun.
So a couple small touches that I really, really like. In the Crane game at the arcade, all of the prizes are Jack Frost Funko Pops, which is amazing. There's also something else that I can tell as a reference, but I can't tell what it is a reference to.
The Ganesha Bank?
Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's very small in the screenshot I took, so I couldn't quite tell what it is. But yeah.
Oh, well, I don't know if that's what you actually see, but the two prizes you can win are the Jack Frost doll and the Ganesha Bank.
So it probably is a Ganesha bank. It looks kind of like Aegis from P3Q, but it definitely is not. So, but yeah,
Well,
it's super cute.
I guess doesn't look anything like Ganesha, so
Yeah, but this
I
also
don't know
has
what it is.
this also has what looks like it could be butterfly wings that could be Ganesha's ears or something. So, whomst can say? Then another small thing that I like is in the Velvet Room, Totina's chair. The back is a lyre harp, which is what Orpheus uses to
Oh,
attack
that's
with.
fun.
I
Which is
noticed that. Yeah.
It's really cool. And then another weird thing about this game is that you go to school on Saturday because it's based in the early 2000s, and until 2002 it was mandatory for students to go to school on Saturdays in Japan, and after that it started being phased out, and it's only like as of like 2016, 2018, something like that, where it's now super rare to have Saturday school. It was mandatory until 2002 and has only been getting phased out. And in fact, in the game, there are NPCs, even in the original Fest, that talk about how Saturday school isn't required anymore, and hopefully GeckoCon gives them Saturdays off school soon. And I think that that's super neat. That there's this little real life thing that is there for gameplay purposes. They couldn't think of what to do to fill 2 weekend days, so they only gave you one, and it's just neat.
I mean,
It's a fun snapshot of the time period.
The game takes place in 2009, so it's been a while. I imagine these kids are getting restless to get to get Saturdays off.
Yeah, imagine that, like Tokyo High, like across the bay or something, they've had it off like since 2002, and so all of their friends are out playing while they're in school, just having to watch it happen. But I think actually, when I was looking up to fact check myself with this one, I think it might be like now required that like elementary schools have Saturday off. Like it's now backed by law in the opposite direction, where it's like no, kids need to play or they'll be broken shells forever.
But in Persona 5, you go to school on Saturday.
No, you don't.
I thought you did.
Do you? Oh
Yes.
yeah, all these things are saying why do they have schools on Saturday? I remember having 2 days off.
Well, you remember wrong.
Yeah, I am remembering wrong. But I was playing 3 and 5 at the same time last time, which is when I looked it up. This is a repeat fun fact from when I looked it up 7 years ago. But and so I thought I was falsely conflating them in my head, but I was accurately conflating them in my head. Once again, I'm only right when I doubt myself and think that I'm wrong. Other small little cool things is Mitsuru's new voice is absolutely perfect. It's as Terra Platt as you can be without being Terra Platt, but also without sounding like you're pretending to be Terra Platt. It's like freakishly good. It is a pitch perfect Mitsuru voice, even though Mitsuru's original voice was just Terra Platt talking, which is cool.
I am really liking Yukari. Yukari's a fun character so far. In general, I'm excited to see more of the cast in general. And I have been aware from, being in this sector of the internet long enough that there is a much larger cast who I'm only getting a small taste of right now. But I look forward greatly to seeing them all start to fill the dorm, I guess. I don't know. I'm very excited. This is very much a game like I know I've been like culturally osmosis exposed to a lot of it. Like I know there's a robot girl, but I don't know almost anything about her except apparently Sam revealing mid-episode that she's a fucking gay option. So now I know that in the PSP version. So now I know that I'm gonna have to pocket that away. Meaning I'm definitely gonna be playing the PSP version after I finish playing Reload.
Wait, she's a gay option in the PSP? How did I reveal that? Because I didn't know that.
I thought you said that. I might have read that somewhere while you were talking and attributed it to you on accident.
Yeah, I haven't played through Persona 3 Portable, and shouts to Rizzo, love him a lot. He was playing in the portable version and did not offer a lot of the things that he was doing that were different. So I don't know much about the portable version at all.
Okay. Yeah, apparently there's only, as the girl pro tag, you only have two real girl romance options, which is still more gay romance options than in, I think, any other Persona game, basically. But you could Aegis is one, and Elizabeth is kind of another, but apparently that like it's like a goes to a certain point and then it gets broken off or something. I don't know.
Mhm.
I need
I
to play
thought
it
in
all the
Persona
way through.
3 Portable,
You have a dude, and
yeah, the
Apparently, you
woman
can
attendant.
choose Elizabeth in the
Oh,
portable.
weird.
so you can be girl and choose to have the attendant be Elizabeth.
I saw specifically that you can date her in the
Okay.
PSP version. I'm struggling it. I don't know if
Who can
I've been
say?
lied to. That I apologize for spreading the lie on the podcast. But
I really like all the new voice actors,
Mhm.
and y'all are giving Junpei a hard time, but I love him. He
I
is
love Junpei.
precious.
you know, Junpei is kind of charming. I'll give him that. But he just also has like an attitude about him of just like, dude, I just try to get through school. Please stop it, man. Stop fucking coming up into me and socializing at me. I can't take it. Also, it's very funny playing with the mod where he treats your main character, you know, the same way you would the guy protagonist, but like looking like a girl is just like, dude, leave me the fuck alone. Are you trying to get in my pants? Stop it.
So, one thing I really like is not quite Paper Mario levels, but all of Totino's dialogue choices are fantastic. And one of them, when you first arrive at the dorm, and Mitsuru is like, "Haha, it's okay, nothing to see here. Dark hour's over. Just go to bed. We'll figure out what the fuck just happened." One of the things you can do is, "Why do you have a gun?" And Yukari, being put on the spot, says, "It's my hobby." Wait, I mean, not quite a hobby. And then Mitsuru cuts in and is like, "You know how it is these days. It's for self-defense." But it's not a real gun, of course, because guns are illegal in Japan. And so it's just this very, very cute little turnaround of, why do you have a gun? And they don't have an answer.
It's
Mhm.
very funny. I do really hope, because I remember like one of the things that stuck my first time through was the whole imagery of somebody in your persona by pointing a gun at your head and pulling the trigger. And like, listen, I'm gonna hope. I want that to have some real thematic heft. I want that to not just be for shock value. I'm scared it might just be for shock value.
We'll see.
We'll see.
There's a lot I don't remember about the story of Persona 3 because I last played Persona 3 Fest like over a decade ago, but
Mhm.
I loved it so much. It became one of my favorite games, and I am so excited to re-experience this, and I've already re-experienced a lot more than I was supposed to because I
Like
couldn't
a
stop.
literal quarter of the game by date. So, whatevs. No big deal.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a quarter, but
I was month 4, month 5, and month 6 out of the 12 months that you have. So,
well,
3 out of 12 months. So, like I said,
for a
by
week of
date.
that, I was in a coma.
Yeah, by date of the calendar of quarter of the game, by playtime, not even close. But yeah. Anything else anyone wants to say before we log off and start playing more Persona 3?
No, I want to play more Persona 3. Let's get to it.
All right, so that'll do it for the week. If you liked what you heard, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club and toss us some cash to help us cover the cost of running the show. If you sign up for a monthly contribution, you also will get some extra benefits. $1 a month, and you'll get on the Gadabout tier, which will get you access to our bonus feed, where this week, Book Club no Kaseki returns, and we get to cover the beach episode of Trails to Azure. Heck yeah. You also get access to our polls that choose what games we play next. We'll be opening that poll in the coming weeks, and I'm excited for what the next block is, so stay tuned for that. If you up it to $5 a month, you get the Warrior tier, which where you'll get all of that, but we'll also say your name like this. Shoutouts to Cerebral Wind, It's Claire Time, Frosthair, Dragon Slayer 19, Florist, Kildron, Freddy Rodriguez, Aaron524, and JFO Prime. And then at $20, you'll become a Luminary, where you also get to shout out something each week. So shoutouts to El Tantavi, who wants you to check out Aftermath.site, a worker-owned, reader-supported news site covering video games, the internet, and the cultures that surround them. Shoutouts to Vimk, who wants you to play Legend of Legaia, a game whose acronym is LOL, which I think is very LOL. And then shoutouts to Car, who is a dentist, so he isn't plugging a website, but rather your own mouth, and he says to brush your teeth twice a day, most importantly, the time right before you go to bed. For RPG Book Club, I've been Sam.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
Toodaloo, folks.
Bye.
I didn't say it on the podcast because I can't defend myself, but I don't like Yukari. I find it funny that I'm like, I love Junpei, I don't like Yukari. And Trish is like, I love Yukari, I don't like Junpei. Very on brand for us, I think.
I think so. I like it. Listen, I don't have my feelings with Yukari are mostly like, I think she sounds nice. I like her voice acting, and I don't know. I think the silliness of I just woke up from this coma. Here's my entire sad backstory. It's just very. It makes me laugh, but it also is just like I accidentally learned yours, so I have to share mine. That's only fair. It's like, that's sweet. I like that.
I think Yukari is a good character. I just can tell I wouldn't like her. I would get annoyed by her if we lived in the same dorm. I think she's a good character, to be clear.